want to talk about transparency. You and Secretary Clinton were both very clear about your desire to testify publicly before this committee. In fact, on February 6, 2026, you posted on social media, quote, "I will not sit idly as they use me as a prop in a closed-door kangaroo court by a Republican Party running scared. If they want answers, let's stop the games and do this the right way in a public hearing where the American people can see for themselves what this is really about." President Clinton, why do you feel it is important for you to testify before this committee in a public setting?
Because I think that, first, what happened with Jeffrey Epstein was horrible. What he did and what Ghislaine Maxwell was convicted of, it was horrible. We can't tolerate it in America and shouldn't. We ought to keep doing, as Hillary talked about yesterday, try our part to get rid of that kind of trafficking around the world. Secondly, I was on the plane. It may be that I've said something today that gave you some indication that would help change policies or something. So I thought it was important. But I also think people know that there's been a little bit of zig and zag and ambivalence about, you know, how hard this thing should be put out there. And I'm not pointing a finger at anybody or anything, I'm just saying we know that. And so I think it's important that we get it all out.
So to be clear, so this committee issued a subpoena to the Department of Justice to release the full and unredacted files last summer. There's also now the Epstein Files Transparency Act that asked for the same, that President Donald Trump signed into law. But still, the Department of Justice under this administration has not released all of the files, and there's been many illegal redactions. Do you think that we, of course, as Congress and the American public, should get the full and unredacted files immediately?
I think unless there is some serious danger of physical harm to one of the victims, or some national security interest involving intelligence, because you've heard these, that some of you think that there's some intelligence issues, national security issues. I think the rest of it ought to be gotten out, and I think we just need to get to a point where we can put this behind us. And then I think I hope you can and will help build us a system that works in America the way our international system works best in trying to identify and stop human trafficking and trying to make people whole once they've been damaged.
Unfortunately, the Department of Justice has wrongfully released some of that information, including personally identifiable information, while illegally redacting names
They're going to kill me for saying this, but I think it's important to see. I think it is entirely possible that people in the Justice Department, I don't agree with on nearly anything, right? But when it's possible that they didn't intentionally cover some of this stuff up. But it's hard to accept that when you look at the other problems in dealing with the information. So you guys got to clear that up, clean it up, decide how you think it should be handled.
So before we go off the record, just one clarification. It's more just for counsels. The quote from the 2024 memoir, I think, was accurately quoted in the first instance. The full sentence is, quote, "He," meaning Mr. Epstein, "hurt a lot of people, but I knew nothing about it. And by the time he was first arrested in 2005, I had stopped contact with him." And that's the end of the sentence. That's page 373. So that's just for counsel. And
my apology. President, during the last hour, there was a discussion related to your book with minority counsel. And I just want to read the excerpt into the record, and just a quick question for clarification. You said, "I had always thought Epstein was odd, but had no inkling of the crimes he was committing. He hurt a lot of people, but I knew nothing about it. And by the time he was first arrested in 2005, I had stopped contact with him." We understand that Mr. Epstein was arrested in July of 2006. Can you explain the discrepancy?
You're asking him to fact check his own book?
Correct.
Okay, I mean,
Can you explain it again?
I can't. I'm sorry, we made a mistake.
Thank you.